Good afternoon, Buddy Colin here with Techout. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. My sister is moving back from college, which has nothing to do with this. I mean, it does a little bit. So they are going to move her stuff so she can get ready to move back in the late summer. So nobody is using the internet right now is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to be cleaning all this up, redoing it. I've upgraded to a lot of Ubiquiti gear, as you guys have seen in past videos. I've got my Ubiquiti Switch and my Ubiquiti Dream Machine Pro in there. So a lot of the cabling and stuff in there is not necessarily being completely utilized. I do have a shelf right there under everything that is, it's got my modem on it, and it's got a couple smart home hubs on it for the Philips Hue and the Lutron lights that I do have. So my goal here is I want to flip the rack around in terms of the UDM. I want the Dream Machine to be on top, the Switch to be on bottom, and then I'm going to try to clean this stuff up down here. I also want to see, I don't think it's going to be possible, but maybe see if I can get the battery backup in the rack as well, just so it's not taking up as much room. I'm going to redo some of the cabling. I have some of these. These are Cat 7 patch cables right here. They're a foot long. I've got like 5 of those left, 4 or 5 of those left. I already put some in right there. So I have Cat 7 going from my modem to my Dream Machine, and from my Dream Machine to my Switch. Reason I did that was because I did upgrade to gigabit internet. So I didn't want any older Cat 5e cables in places where it could create a bottleneck. Cat 5e is still capable of a gigabit, but they were cheap cables, so they were like eBay special. So while Cat 5e, the standard, is completely capable of 1 gigabit speeds in this configuration and in these links, they were cheaply made, couple dollar cables. So I wanted to eliminate those on the higher speed points as much as possible. So I'm going to shut everything down, pull everything out. I'm going to clean the rack out. It does get dusty pretty quickly because I do have some exhaust fans on it, so it does pull air in and exhaust it out the top. So I'm going to clean that out. I'm going to get rid of all these unwanted power cables. I do have a bunch of power cables and stuff like that that are no longer necessary. They're not all plugged into devices, but they're just hard to remove with everything in there. So we're basically going to do a full switch rebuild. Full rack rebuild. After that, I want to get rid of some of this right here. This server is no longer used. It was kind of just sitting there so I could hook it up to the Switch a long time ago. And this is actually the loft in my house. So right down there is the living room. So I want to clean as much of this stuff up as possible and get rid of some of the stuff that I'm not using just to tidy it up. And like I did say, I put some new fans in the Switch. They're Noctua fans, so you can't really hear this thing from downstairs anymore. The fans that came in the rack were super loud. It sounded like well, I guess I can't really say it sounded like a server room because they all sound different. But if you ever walked by like a server room with the door closed and you just hear that loud fan hum, that's what this sounded like. It was very loud. You could hear it downstairs. The fans started to get dusty / go bad, don't really know which, after a while, and they had a really bad rattle to them. So it was like server room hum mixed with like diesel truck idling. So got rid of those, put the Noctua fans in, and it's super silent now. So that's the overview of what we're at right now. After I start pulling everything out, I'll give you guys some updates, and I'll show you what's going on after that. All right, before I pull everything out, just a little bit of what we got going on here. I think I actually, just looking at this before I pull everything out, want to put this shelf right here in between these two devices. Reason being is because the cable right here is just long enough to where it wants to poke out. So I think I'm going to put this between the two, and then I can run the cabling kind of through the middle. I might still have it go off to the side like that that's going around back, but I can have the modem cabling and stuff like that just go over the top to where the cables aren't all bunched up at the front here, because the door does push on them, and I haven't had any issues with that yet. With these thick cables, I don't want them putting like a bunch of stress on the ends of the cables or the ports or anything like that. But I went ahead and hit power down on the UDM. You can see it's safe to power off, so I can go ahead and unplug it. So I'm going to go ahead and shut everything down. Synology is powered off and everything like that. So we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and pull everything out and see how I want to lay this out exactly. Alright, so I got the UDM Pro and the switch out. So here's what we're working with behind everything. There's that shelf right there. Still didn't take that out yet. Hopefully the camera can focus with the flashlight. Let me lower the brightness a little bit. But in the back here, it is just a jumbled mess of cables. So the front may have been all nice and neatly done, but the back is just a jumbled mess. So I want to pull a lot of these long cables out that I don't need. When I did this, I was kind of just scrounging for cables, so I didn't really have the proper links to go to devices that were closer. As far as wired devices that are connected to this switch, the farthest away is going to be the Ethernet, the Powerline Ethernet adapter, which is on the wall that way. It comes out of the switch. It's one of these. It's this blue cable right here. So that one I need to be long. That one's fine. It's not bunched up in here anyway. It's actually pretty much the perfect length. But I want to try to use these cables right here. Well, Cat 7 is not necessary at all for these devices right here because they're, for one, only 100 megabit per second devices. They're not gigabit. And they also don't need to have a fast connection because all they do is control lights. So there's really no bandwidth being used there. But I want to go ahead and try to use these cables for those devices if I can make it reach. I don't know if these are going to be long enough. These might be just too short. But I want to use something short for these devices. And I also want to try to mount these somewhere on the side of the rack, or probably not the top of the rack because that would be kind of, they'd probably fall down. But if I can find something to mount them to, like one of the sides with, just to get them out of the way and I can run the wires, you know, nice and neat and not have to have them visible. I haven't had any issues with my Philips Hue lights or my Lutron lights or anything with the connection with them being surrounded by this metal box. That hasn't caused me any issues, so I'm not worried about any of that. Same for my Arlo. And then right down here on the bottom, in the back, we've got a pile of trash. And by pile of trash, I'm talking about that Wink cup right there. That thing's getting thrown out because when I bought that, they were no monthly fees, no monthly fees. And I just got an email from them last week saying they're going to $5 a month or you can't get into your account. So since they're going to extortion, I'm going to throw that out because it's not going to be used anymore. And it's going to be all Philips Hue, HomeKit, and Lutron devices in this house from now on, as well as the Arlo hub down there. That's just fine. Arlo works great. One of these days I want to switch to the Ubiquiti cameras because I do have the UDM, so I can put the hard drive in there and I can run Unify Protect. Only thing is, all their cameras are wired, and I really don't have a way to get wired cameras from here to around the outside of my house. I do have a solution for that, but it involves a lot of work, so it's probably not something that'll happen anytime soon. But it's something I'm thinking about and something I'm going to see if, you know, I might be able to do. But again, that's nothing to do with this video or anything coming up. So I'm going to put that back. I'm going to pull the rest of this wire out and pull these devices out down here. I got to get the power cords out as well. That's always a fun time. I wish I had a label maker so I could label what power cord goes to what. But I don't have one handy, so just gonna have to guess. Most of them are, you know, they match the device, they're the same color or something like that, so it narrows it down pretty easily, or they have the brand on it, so it's not too bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull everything back out, and or not pull everything back out, but pull the rest of this stuff out, and we will get on with that. Up on the top here I have my Unify, one of my access points. That was one of the new ones I got. It is the fastest one I have, so it's the main one. I want to mount that somewhere either on the side of the rack or maybe up on the wall there. It does have a mounting bracket that I have around here somewhere that I might be able to zip tie to the rack or something like that. I just don't want it sitting right on the middle on the top there. I want to try to find a nice spot for it. So I'm going to work on that and I'll update you guys here soon. Alright, so I decluttered some of those cables back there, and I do have the Dream Machine back installed on the top here. I moved that to the very top slot. So that's where I'm going to base everything else off of. I'm going to try putting the shelf in. Probably, I'll probably use this one for the shelf, just to leave a little bit of an air gap, and then go down one more, and have the switch. I'm going to check the fit on that and see how the cables do, going from here to there. But we'll check on that. That's what I'm going to do next. I didn't pull all the power cords out just because they're not a whole jumbled mess in there. I only pulled the ones out that I'm not using anymore. There was a set for the old fans, and the wing cup, like I said, I got rid of that. I pulled its cord out. So that's going to be one less thing in there. Everything else, I'm going to try to put these little hubs down here on the bottom on the shelf with the router, and we'll see how that goes cable-wise and if they all fit and want to stay there. If so, then the only thing down on the bottom here is going to be the Synology. Also decided that the battery backup is going to stay outside, just because with the shelf in there and skipping a spot, lowering everything down, it's not going to clear height-wise. And when you do put it in, I have to put it in sideways because it's not deep enough for the battery backup, so I have to put it in sideways. And when I do that, it just creates a whole another mess of power cables and a rat's nest of those being all balled up instead of just running out from the side and in through the back. It's a lot easier just to keep it outside and avoid that headache. So that's what I'm going to do for that. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and start putting other stuff in, and we'll get back to you after I get some of that stuff in. Alright, so I've got some of it back in. I've got the switch down here, got the shelf, and then I've got the Ubiquiti Dream Machine Pro. And what I'm doing setup wise for the wires is I've got this short one from the UDM, which provides the internet. It's basically the router, all that kind of stuff up here, going down to the switch. The switch is just going to connect my smart home components and my Synology NAS. So all these hubs right here, excuse me, the Synology NAS, that kind of stuff. The access point on top here is this one right here, so it's plugged directly into the Dream Machine. And then this one right here goes to my office, which also has a wired access point, plus all my computers wired to a switch in there. So all that goes directly to the Dream Machine. I did do a test. It looks like having the access points directly to the Dream Machine does increase the speed just a little bit. I wouldn't say it's dramatic or noticeable, but there is a little bit of a speed difference if you have them wired directly to this versus the switch. Now that may be in my setup. There really shouldn't be a difference between here and the switch because it's connected via a gigabit link. But having other devices connected to this, for whatever reason, the speed test higher on the Dream Machine when it's wired directly. So that's how I'm going to do it for now. We'll figure that out later. The only reason I'm keeping the switch in here, because technically I do have enough ports on the Dream Machine to connect everything. Only reason I'm keeping the switch in here is because I had this switch first before I got the Dream Machine Pro, so I already have it. I didn't buy it because I needed more ports. I had it. Well, I did need more ports at the time I bought it, but then I bought this because it does the routing and everything like that, the unified controller, everything like that, all in one. So that's why I bought that, and that's why I have so many extra ports basically. This is the USW24 switch. It's not a PoE switch and it's not the Pro switch. It was when I bought it in the early access store, so it is technically a beta model. So I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to sell it or not, even though it is public now. It is on the regular store. Anybody can buy it. It's out of the early access program, all that kind of stuff. But it does have a sticker on the back saying it's a beta product, not for resale, all that kind of stuff. So instead of having to figure all that out and sell it and all that kind of stuff, I'm just going to keep it. And it's going to have a few things plugged into it. Like I said, I'm going to do all my smart home stuff on the switch, and all my access points and other computers are going to be wired directly to the Dream Machine. So it is pretty clean. Synology is in here. I just have to wire everything back up. It looks like I will be able to get my hubs on the top right there. Sorry about all the movement. My camera is on the tripod and I have to get the tripod on the floor. I got some wires down there. Everything is going to fit right there. I'm going to put my modem in, wire that up, and get the internet back up and running. So I'm going to wire everything back up, and then I'll show you guys the finished product. Alright, well, I didn't do exactly everything I wanted to, but it did come out pretty well. The cables on the bottom there are very, very minimal. Actually, the only cables on the bottom are the one that goes to the Arlo hub and one that goes to the Synology, and a couple power cables that are bundled up down there that you can't see because they blend in. But up top here, let me show you what we're working with. What I did is I've got the internet coming in through the UDM Pro here, which is connected to the switch via this Ethernet cable right here. I want to use SFP at one point, but they didn't have any cables when I ordered my UDM Pro, and again, there's very, very little in terms of bandwidth being connected through this switch. The biggest user is going to be the Synology, which is, you know, local. And then everything else is just smart home hubs and stuff like that that use very, very little bandwidth and only really do anything when a light is commanded on or something like that. So there really is no need to spend any kind of money to get speed to this switch, other than what we have here. We have a gigabit link, which is perfectly fine. So these cables right here are all internal to the rack, and they all run to either the Synology or one of the hubs. Up here we have my modem, which the cable for that goes into the WAN port of the UDM Pro right here. I couldn't get it to run around, it was just too short to loop it around with these two. This one right here goes to my office to go to the switch in there, which supplies my computers and another access point. And then this one right here goes to the access point that is on top of the rack, which is the main one for the home. It has two mesh access points that connect to it from downstairs. So that's the main one. Everything else, like I said, the Synology's in the back there. I slid it backwards instead of having it up on the front here, just because it didn't need to be facing forward. It takes up a little bit more room that way. It's a little bit more visible. So the bottom is pretty clean here. Everything is organized to the top half right here. And I'm very happy with the way it turned out. All my hubs are right here. The only problem I had was one of the hubs, the cables. The thing I have with cables is either they're too long or they're too short. If they're too long, you've got to ball them up or, you know, tie them up somewhere. And once you tie up a bunch of cables, it just, even tying them up doesn't make them look too neat. After that, if they're too short, you can't really run them the way you want. You know, it's pulling devices off the shelf or it's pulling something over. You know, you can't just have it dangle there. But very happy with the way it turned out. I'm going to tie those up like that so they don't droop down. These are tied up, and they actually have one of the Velcro ties going around the side of the shelf there, holding those up so they don't fall down. So it looks very clean going off to the side like that. But like I said, overall, very happy with the way it turned out. I got rid of one device, which was the Wink Hub, which I already told the story on about how they're going to subscriptions. So that's why I got rid of that. I'm going to clean this up. That's just another project, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the rack. But that is my home network rack. I really want to do some wired networking throughout the house and maybe move this rack into a closet or something like that instead of out here in my loft, and take advantage of some of those ports on the switch. But I don't have Ethernet run in my house, and that's just something that I'm not good with. Running cables through, you know, existing walls is just kind of a pain, and it's not worth it to me in terms of, you know, how far we've come with Wi-Fi. Ubiquiti's got some Wi-Fi 6 access points coming out. They're already starting in early access, and we've got Powerline Ethernet to my office, so really no need for that. But I might take some, you know, take advantage of some of those switch ports if I do some wired Ubiquiti cameras, and get rid of the Arlo or something like that. But that's where we are right now. That is my switch update, my rack update for May of 2020, end of May. I am looking to build this out some more Ubiquiti gear as they come out with some new stuff, so stay tuned for that. I am a huge fan of the Ubiquiti stuff. It's very easy to set up, very easy to configure, and it's quite fun to play with. I have a lot of this stuff on their early access and beta programs, so I get the beta software and that kind of stuff, and I really do enjoy playing with it. So look forward to that. Make sure you click that subscribe button. I am kind of new to the whole networking thing. I'm not, you know, by any means a professional, as you can see. But more of an enthusiast and somebody that is still currently learning and just having fun with it. So I'm Colin with Techout. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.